Devbox, and I'm here with my first tutorial actually. And today we're going to be doing a noob's guide on Roblox Studio. So in this tutorial we're going to be going essentially basically over every single basic thing in the Roblox Studio and what you need to start off. Basically a starting ground for noobs. Now the first thing I want to go over is what you're looking at in the middle of the screen. This is like your 3D view of your video game. This is what your game is going to look like when you publish it. Now some things to look at. This is a floor. And this is a spawn location. Now Roblox has its own unit of measurement called studs. And these squares, that's one stud. That's the equivalent to one stud. So just keep that in mind whenever you're designing games. But moving on. Okay. So the first thing you should probably look at is this tool. This is called the part tool. And as you can see, there is a cube there. And if you hover over it, it says place a part into the workspace. And this is a workspace pretty much. So if you click it, a part comes. Now the reason it's green is because if you look up here, I already selected the color green. But if you click on the part and you hit the down arrow, you get a big palette of colors that you can essentially use. Like I'll just use red. And now as you can see, it's a part. Now, if you look on the right side of the screen, you'll see something called the Explorer. And this is basically the Files app of your game. You can find all of the names of all the stuff. For example, the part, which is placed. And as you can see, I can select the part, and it selects it in the game too. And if I hit backspace, it deletes. If you ever accidentally make a move in Roblox Studio that you don't want to do, Control-Z works here. So yeah, basically if you ever want to find something very quickly, you can find a workspace and hit backspace. This doesn't only show the workspace. On top of the workspace, which stores all the parts inside the game, there's also a bunch of other stuff below, which has all the stuff behind the game that's controlling the game. But we'll get to that in a different tutorial. Now, when we have this part selected, we can actually do many things with this part. Besides changing the color, if you look over here, there are 4 tools. There's the Select tool, which is used to select parts. The Move tool, which if you click on it, shows 4 arrows. The red ones are the X-axis, the blue ones are the Z-axis, and the green ones are the Y-axis. Which essentially means you can move it with the arrows. Now if you go back up here, there's also something called Scale. Scale lets you change the size of a part to any size you want. Rotate, it's pretty self-explanatory, lets you rotate the part. Oh, and now that we're done with these basic ones, if you go over to View and Properties, which may already be there, but which looks something like this. Yours might be a little square at the bottom, but for me it's big. But you'll find it eventually. And here you'll find a bunch of classifications that this brick falls under. And you can change these classifications. For example, hover over this, transparency. So basically, if you want to make a part invisible, you type 1, invisible. 0.5, it's transparent. And there's also a lot of other stuff. For example, you can turn off the shadow by ticking this or unticking it. Now, if we leave this, if we leave the Properties tab and go back to the top, you'll see these 3 buttons. You'll also see there's something called Anchor underneath block. This is the most important and often the most forgetful one of them. It basically decides whether or not the part can be moved by the player's feet or if it's stuck in the ground. For example, like a wall. So if you anchor, it cannot be moved. Now this group button. This only works if you have several parts. So we're going to make another part, and you can do this by either hitting duplicate, or you can select the part and hit Control-D, which is a shortcut for duplicate. Now we have 2 parts. And if you select one, you can select both of them by holding Shift and selecting the other part. Then, after selecting both parts, you can hit the group button, which now makes it combined. Now, these are still two different parts. To fully combine a part, we'll have to go into a more advanced tutorial. But if you want to move the part by itself, not in your group, you can go to Explorer, hit the drop-down menu on the model, find the individual part, and as you can see, only that part's highlighted. Click the Move tool or whatever tool you want to use, and you can move it, unselect it, and it'll go back to normal. Now, if you look at the top, there are two more things I want to cover. The toolbox and the editor. Now, if we click the toolbox, you can see on the left side of the screen a bunch of random models come up. This is basically a place where you can take models that people post online and use them for yourself. For example, this block. Now, obviously, there are better stuff than block, like this jail cell, a working jail cell. However, since you guys are new developers, I would encourage you to pretty much never use this side of the toolbox for 3 reasons. 1, you won't really be developing a game, you'll pretty much just be taking other people's developments, so no one will ever take you seriously. Number 2, you won't be able to have a consistent style. Like, for example, you could have this Minecraft-esque platform, and then also have a realistic 2019 sports car called Rosh. And 3, some of these have viruses in them which are meant to hack your games and hack your accounts. I speak from experience as 2019 me got hacked. But moving on, there are some important stuff in the toolbox, which is why I'm showing it to you. If you hit this models drop down, you'll see there are a bunch of other stuff, such as plugins, which are very useful. They're basically add-ons to Roblox Studio. As you see, some of these cost up to like $40, while some of these are completely free. I use plugins a lot in my game development, and you won't need any of these, to be honest, as a beginner developer. In fact, they only make stuff harder, but I just want you to keep an eye out for that, just in case. And if you have the drop-down menu, there's a bunch of other stuff. Just avoid the models, because that's usually the stuff that's filled with viruses. Now, the last thing I want to cover in this tutorial is the terrain editor. If you click the terrain editor, you'll start off on a create. I don't really like the create. It's pretty much just worse. I prefer the edit section. Now, as you can see, there's a list of 9 tools you can use to make your own terrain. I'm going to be using the draw tool, and you can experiment with your own tools, with all these tools by yourself in Roblox Studio. If you scroll down, there's a brush shape. I'm going to do square for the sake of it, because that's my favorite one. And if you scroll more down, there's these little cubes, and spheres. And if you hover over them, they have names, grass. Let's select grass, and if you click, it'll make a block of grass. And you can hold this like a paintbrush, which is why they're called brushes, and you can essentially paint the grass on. And now we have grass. And you can change it to like slate. And basically you can make your own ground, RPG, whatever you want. Oh, and there's also water. The best part about this water is you don't need to script it. But yeah, you can make your own little world with this, really. You don't even need to know how to code or build at all to make your own little world. And I think that's a very cool part of Roblox Studio. Anyways, that's my basic guide to Roblox Studio. Obviously, there are way more capabilities that Roblox Studio has to offer, and we will go over almost all of them in our next tutorials. If you want to find out in our next tutorials on how to make scripts to go with your Roblox games, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for the next video. If you have any more questions or comments you'd like to leave, write a comment, and we'll probably make a video on said question, answering your question, and you'll be featured in the video. So yeah, don't feel shy, or if it's a simple question, we'll just answer in the comments. But yeah, anyways, this is Deadbox, and I'll see you next tutorial. Peace!